Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation. This time we're going to be talking about genocide, what it is, and how the international community defines it. What I really want you to be focused on in this video while you're taking notes is understanding the different components of what makes up genocide, how the international community created a definition, and be especially paying attention to which groups are involved or which groups are a part of the definition, I should say, and which ones are not. That's going to be key as we talk about the effectiveness of this definition. So, what is genocide? Although we may commonly think of genocide as an attempt to eliminate an entire group, this might be something that we had discussed in class earlier this week, it's a much more technical definition. It's far more precise. The international community has done a pretty decent job at really narrowing down the focus of what this definition is. So let's take a look. So, what is the Genocide Convention? So if you remember from our last unit on human rights, the international community in 1948, aka the United Nations, drafted a document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in an effort to protect human rights. Very similarly, in 1948, they also drafted a legally binding, so this one's different than the UDHR, a legally binding document that they were trying to find a definition for genocide in terms of it being a crime under international law. Similar to the UDHR, they did want to do this in order to prevent something like the Holocaust from happening again. Only in this case, there had been several genocides prior to the Holocaust as well that we will talk about in the coming weeks. And while they, at the same time of trying to prevent another Holocaust, they also wanted to try and respect countries' sovereignty, aka countries' independence, and stay out of civil wars. So they were looking to try and create a clear definition so that there wasn't any gray area about, well, is it genocide if it's a civil war? Is that the country's right to have a civil war? Is it our responsibility as the international community to go in and stop civil wars? And so they really wanted to get a clear idea of what they could do and what they could not do. So if countries signed this convention, this is what they were agreeing to. Number one, on what the definition of genocide is. And if a situation was genocide, that any members of the UN who had signed this convention are agreeing to two things. One, they would take action to prevent or stop the acts of genocide being committed. And two, they would also take acts to punish those who are committing genocide, whether that was a government or some other influential leader. And this includes anyone who signed on to this. And so it can mean anybody, even if it was the United States. So there are three components to genocide. The first is intent. According to the UN, genocide is any of the following acts that are committed with intent to destroy. That's the key for intent. Intent to destroy. In whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. So those are the four criteria. Those are the kinds of groups. And anyone that's trying to destroy any of these groups with intent to destroy. What does that mean? It means killing the members, causing serious bodily or mental harm to those members, deliberately or intentionally inflicting on the group conditions of life, meaning anyone who's putting these people in a certain kind of standard of living or quality of life that is physically destructive to them, putting on certain measures that are intended to prevent births so they can't reproduce and grow and repopulate, or forcing the transfer of children from one group to another. So any or all of these kinds of acts collectively, again with the intent to destroy of any of these groups, is the intent piece of this definition of genocide. The next one is group. So as we just talked about, a national or ethnical, racial, or religious group. These are the groups that are involved in this process. These are any of the groups that can be involved, but just these groups. And then as I mentioned before, acts is the last category, and as I mentioned before, these are the certain acts that are allowed. Killing, serious bodily harm, putting people in a condition of life, standard of living, quality of life that is about purposefully done to bring them harm, prevent births, transferring children, any and all of these acts against these groups with the intent to destroy. This is the definition of genocide. So once again, it's intent, groups, and acts. The intent to destroy any of these groups that are mentioned in here with any of these acts. So once again, I want you to be filling out your sheets with some notes about what you've watched here, keeping in mind what is a part of the definition as well as what isn't a part of the definition. And in class, we will discuss this a little more thoroughly. Take care and write down any questions that you may have to bring up tomorrow in class. See you then.